All right, so today I am joined by comedian Jonah Nigh. How are you doing today?
Good. Happy AAPI month to, well, not you, but others.
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. I actually, sorry, it was just like force of habit. I did the Asian Comedy Fest like last week, and you could just scream and do all this stuff. But then I'm like, oh, you're not.
No, not an Asian.
Not that I'm aware of that you're not Asian.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
That's
And we first connected when you and your husband Patrick competed on the reality food competition show Baking It. But
yes,
but within the last year or so, you kind of transitioned into comedy. So tell us,
yeah.
how did that shift happen?
You notice my husband's not here, and it's not
Yeah,
because we're divorced. It's just he had his touch with show business. He's like, never again.
never again.
He's such a shy person, but that's okay. I'll make up for both of us. Yeah, after baking it, I think I realized something was really missing in my life, and that's not just Maya Rudolph and Andy Samberg. It was, we covered last time, I was an opera singer for 9 years, had a surgery on my voice, and then thought, well, I guess that's it creatively. So shifted to fundraising as a career, which I've done for the last 19 years. But then I was working with a coach or something, and they're like, you need to find a way to marry all these side speaking gigs you're getting, the fact that you like to use humor as sort of a way to skewer certain things. And so I took a comedy class, and it was just really serendipitous. I got home from a holiday vacation, like in January, and I just cold called a bunch of comedy clubs and said, "Hey, next time you have classes, let me know." My first teacher was Kevin Dombrowski, who's like a New Yorker comedian, and he's at the Cellar. And he's like, "I think you got something." So I just kept plugging away at it. And what's been great about doing it is I don't really get stage fright because of those 9 years on stage singing in languages I don't speak. That'll knock the fear out of you. And then it's autobiographical, it's political, it's funny. It's just another way to get at the things I like to talk about with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just in your first year doing stand up, you performed over 30 festivals across four countries.
Yeah.
So what
I,
has that
I
experience been like?
It's been a dream, and I really can't believe it's happening. And I have different teachers and coaches for different aspects of comedy, whether it's delivery, writing, material in general. And this guy Rick Crom, again another legend from the Comedy Cellar, he's like, "This is fast, Jonah. This is," and I was like, "Okay, I don't have anything to compare it to, but like it feels fast."
Yeah.
I would say what some recent highlights have been, well, this even just this last month or so, opening for Natasha Leggero
Mhm.
in Traverse City, opening for Lady Bushra, who's a South Asian drag queen,
Yep.
comedian, cabaret artist. I think I got it. At Don't Tell Mama. Competitions feel very much like when I was still singing. You get this one in LA I did. You got 2 minutes and 59 seconds was the time.
Mhm.
And I did that in LA, and it ended up getting me an agent. And then one in Canada. I think what's fun about doing it in other countries, though, or even just other parts of of our country, you start to see how regional some comedy is, and then how much is universal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I will say New Yorker is not a great place to test your jokes. That's why I like doing the clubs here that have tourists, because New York, we're evil, and we'll laugh at anything. Like, it's just not like, if it works in New York, that does not mean it's going to work in Traverse City, Michigan,
Very
or
true.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, so that's been really funny, or not, to find out.
Yeah, because many comedians use humor to explore identity and challenge
Yes.
stereotypes. So how do you walk that line between poking fun at cultural expectations and pushing for visibility?
Well, when I get accepted to something, I'm assuming, and maybe it's not a fair assumption, but that the producers know their crowds
Okay.
better than I do. And so if they have seen my submission or seen my set, they know I'm going to talk about race. They know I'm going to talk about adoption. They know I'm going to make fun of JD Vance. So when I don't get into something, I'm like, I just take it as a grain of salt. I'm like, it's fine. I don't want to be put in a situation where it might be dangerous for me.
Yeah.
Ironically, the most liberal cities that I've played to, New York notwithstanding, I've had the most discomfort. LA,
Okay.
Boulder, Colorado, which, like a fool, I'm going back again this summer. But
Yeah. Boulder, Colorado, really?
yeah, so I think because the audiences tend to be almost exclusively white,
Mhm. Okay.
but they're very liberal and very in touch with politics. You would think that my jokes about adoption and this and transracial that would get the biggest laughs, but they're almost the least comfortable with it. Like I was in LA doing a show and I heard this blonde lady in the front row go, "Oh my god," after a joke, and I was like, "Ma'am, one, I heard that.
Yeah.
It's not like a stadium. And two, it's going to be a rough 20 minutes for you."
Yeah.
I'm getting warmed up. Remarkably, the places where you would, Iowa City is actually quite liberal because of the college there, but that was my first out of town gig, and I thought, do I modulate or not? And I was like, well, we'll just see. And the smaller, more conservative, Williamsburg, Virginia, I've gotten sometimes the biggest laughs.
Okay.
And I think it's almost like I give them permission to engage in this sort of thorny topic of race and discrimination or dual identities, being Asian and gay and Jewish, so a three-peat. The thing that makes people actually the most nervous, though, is when I mention Judaism.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think because they don't know where I'm going to go with it for a second.
Okay.
So I say, some things you should know about me. I'm gay, I'm Asian, and then everyone's like laughing, and I was like, and Jewish, and then dead silence. Every city, but I've turned that into the joke. I said, yeah, for some reason that really bums people out. Yeah. So I've had some advice to not do any Jewish material outside of New York, but I have not taken that advice.
Okay. Probably for the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Just one.
Laughs.
I can turn it into a laugh. There's a bit of shock value to it. I also want to, where do you think I got the name Jonah? That's not like an Asian name. I live in New York, so it's been fun. If you look at, Romeo Tangal actually did the illustration on the landing page of my website, and you'll notice it's me using microphones as nunchucks.
I did notice that when
I
saw your website.
I wasn't sure about it at first, but he's like, first of all, because I'm like, I'm not this type of Asian. He's like, it's okay. It's all used in it. And he was the one who did the comics for Teen Titans.
Oh, okay.
And he came up with that idea of how can the spoken word be a weapon?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I like that just as an idea.
Yeah, definitely.
No one said anything like, you don't use nunchucks. I'm like, no. And if you look closely, they're microphones. Get it? Yeah. So, but I really like that idea though, that and humor is sort of the Trojan horse, right? You can bring up harder things. Yeah. In Michigan, I made a joke about how annoying and misgendering someone is. Yeah. Because I kept referring to JD Vance as a her with really a very odd shade of eyeliner. Yeah. And that was like, oh, and I said, see how annoying it is to keep misgendering someone? And everyone's like, oh, yeah.
I get that little point in there, yes. Mm-hmm. Well, do you believe there are some topics that should never be joked about?
Not per se, but I will say, again, really good teachers have said, until you've been doing it a really long time and maybe you have a following that trusts you, or you just have more experience to take those on stage, it's not advisable.
Okay.
I have seen inexperienced comics take on rape, suicide, school shootings, things that are being discussed, of course, very seriously in the zeitgeist, that they didn't land.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they had the skill, the audience, whatever. I didn't think the jokes were funny. I think time helps. You have a lot of New York comics who do 9/11 jokes, which would, of course, been unthinkable. Although Gilbert Gottfried has a legendary misstep. He did a 9/11 joke 6 days after. Yep. And it just failed. But, yeah. So I don't think per se my favorite comics have gone after everyone.
Okay.
Joan Rivers, may she rest. Phyllis Diller, they had no boundaries. They were masters at the one-liners in particular, and I'm like, this isn't offensive. It's dangerous, but it's not offensive.
Exactly. Yeah. And comedy can be a powerful tool for activism. So have you found your performances to spark any conversations around race, queerness, or equity in unexpected places?
Yes, and yes. I think the one bit I do, it's just about 4 minutes, I do talk about how I soften it and I just talk about how objects can be racist,
Okay.
but what I'm really saying is data and stuff like that. So we put so much faith in data and that it's somehow objective. And so in that set, I go over to warm people into it. I talk about my first digital camera and how if it took a picture of white people, it was great. If it took a picture of me, an error screen would prevent it from taking the picture, and it would say one or more of your subjects have their eyes closed. And I was like, and even other Asians somehow got photos taken, and that the irony is that it was like an Asian camera.
Yeah.
And then once people were sort of warmed up with that idea, then I actually talk about serious sociological studies about how hand dryers and faucets at airport bathrooms, that the sensors were beta tested on white skin, and that's why they don't work as well for people who are not white.
Okay.
And I hear every time I do that bit, someone go, in Michigan, someone's like, very loudly, again in a stage whisper, which I could hear, was like, is that true? I'm like, no, I just thought that'd be really funny, you know? And then the last one I do is AI facial recognition, how it has a lot of trouble recognizing ethnic features. Well, what are ethnic features? They're just not white. And how it really screws up Black women in particular. And then I tie it back to, you know, and I think all Asians have their eyes closed. But like, yeah, so I will absolutely. And also, if I get a longer set, because it is touchy, but I talk a little bit about, and we talked about it in our last interview, my brother passing away from COVID.
Yeah.
And how he had cerebral palsy, and I tie it into just sort of childhood jealousy and me stealing his wheelchairs and taking them to the Mall of America and pretending to have a handicap for an hour. But I can see people tense up, but then it's like, you know, people with disabilities, you know what they don't want? Pity.
Exactly. They do not want pity.
Yeah. So, yeah, I find ways just through my life story, you know, having a mom who's a Russian Jew and a dad who's a Southern Baptist from Texas.
There you go. Definitely.
Yep. Happy marriage. Yeah, it worked out really well.
Well, what do you ultimately hope audiences take away from your sets?
I think that we can talk about serious things while not taking ourselves seriously.
Okay.
Like, these things should be talked about, and perhaps better than screaming at each other on Fox or MSNBC, there's another way. Comedy does open that door to make you vulnerable. And I think if you've laughed, you know, there's some psychology to what people, they forget something like 80% of what you say within 48 hours, but they remember exactly how they felt.
Yeah.
So if I can somehow bridge the gap of like, these don't have to necessarily be fraught issues, even though the ramifications are, but if you can learn something about these tough issues and not get like your shoulders in a hunch. So I think that's it. And I've definitely been told, I won't say where, but like some pretty big comedy mainstay shows have auditioned me. Okay. And the feedback I get is just like, oh, well, you know, kids watch our show, or it's a little bit, or other agents who do colleges and stuff. Could you take out this? I'm like, you know, I really don't want to. I'm 45. I'm not desperate for stardom. So, like, I'm not, this is my point of view. I'm like, I don't want to work with somebody who's like, you can have your point of view if you shave off this. I actually had one place say, if you could take out the adoption stuff. And I'm like, that's a big chunk. Like, my birth? I was like, I don't even know. Yeah, I said, no thanks.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you're also part of a growing wave of queer Asian American performers gaining visibility across genres.
Yep.
So what progress have you seen and what still needs to change?
I love it when I see Asian comics. Well, I just did the Asian Comedy Fest in New York, and I usually dread doing Asian shows. Okay. Because it's like, oh, who's going to do the Shenyang joke? Who's going to do the lactose intolerant joke? You know, and all that stuff. But I'm starting to see more, yes, they are Asian, and they make a couple jokes about it. And then they move on to their general material, which doesn't really have anything to do with being Asian. Yeah. I think Ali Wong's a good example, who, by the way, Ali, I would love to open for you.
I'm watching this.
I got a whole list of people I would love to, and most are Asian. But you know, her last special wasn't really about being Asian. It was about being divorced and wanting to have sex with a lot of people. You know, it's like
relatable. Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, exactly. That's what's so lovely about him. And Ronnie Chang is overtly political. Um, Margaret Cho has always been political, but I think back in the 90s or early 2000s, she felt the need to talk about her Asianness longer, and now it's really just she's become sort of mama bear for all of us.
Really has.
Atsuko Okatsuka, hers is just bizarre.
Mhm.
I mean, she doesn't talk about it too much, but it's mostly like just absurd.
Yeah.
I love all that. I love that that has happened.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, Jonah, outside of comedy, you're also a powerful voice for DEI,
Yeah.
profit, and fundraising worlds, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But has this always been a passion of yours as well?
No, I had to have a talking to. At some point in my career, I was starting to do all the panels or get asked to do the panels.
Okay.
And I said to somebody, Melanie Hart, she's of counsel at Earth Justice, and I was working with her somewhere else. And I was like, Melanie, do I have to do all the Asian stuff in May now and the gay stuff in June? And she's like, what are you proving by saying no? She's like, she's like, if the institutions that are asking you to do this stuff are aligned with your values, get on that stage and own that you know why you're there. It's like not a mystery why I get so many things in May. And it really helped turn it around for me at being like, oh, I could be helpful in these spaces.
Yeah.
I don't have to moan and groan about it. And maybe even at a certain point in leadership in your career, it's almost an obligation. Certainly in fundraising, 90% of the workers are white.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if I may know one or two Asians who are like peers in other institutions.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I could be a provocation to the system if I can somehow, much like comedy, I did a talk about Pride and Juneteenth at the last big conference here in New York. This was last year. They asked me to. And so I used comedy, really. It was a 5-minute set. And I was like, if you don't know what Juneteenth is, or Pride, I'm not going to tell you. Like, I was like, you can really look that up for yourself. It's been around. And then I can slip in, ideas that I've been taught, like that diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion's an action, and belonging is a result, which I think is a very succinct way because those words get thrown around so much.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to talk about belonging because it feels good. And I was like, you don't actually get to claim that. Belonging is a result of the work you do in equity and inclusion. Diversity is just a fact in a place like New York. Mm-hmm. So let's get to the choices and the actions we're going to make. And then the outside world will tell you if they felt like they belonged.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're also co-producing a movie with J.K. Simmons. Is that correct?
It is. And this is, I think, byproduct of comedy. So like while I took comedy classes, I meet other creatives. Yeah. And this producer, writer, director, Elatir, she found out what I did and she's like, do you want to help me produce a movie? I was like, is that just like fundraising? And she's like, yep. I was like, great. So she sends me the script. I actually loved it. And actually I do have an update. It's in the can. It's going to go to festivals this fall and then hopefully for release next year. But it's a stacked cast. Okay. Not just J.K. Simmons, but like, Jake Ryan. He's like in a lot of Wes Anderson and Coen Brothers movies. Nina Arianda, which is amazing Broadway actress, and Olympia Simmons, who's a great actress and also happens to be J.K.'s son. It's just moving. I read that script and I was moved by it. I was like, also I loved this writer-director, and she and I had fun cracking each other up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could work with her. I never thought I would do this, and so I'm just like, what else is comedy going to open up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what are some comedy or creative goals you're hoping to hit within the next couple of years?
Well, I just was fortunate to get signed by a manager and an agent, and I've told them all, like, my goal is not to be a full-time comic. I'm a little old for that, and as cool as it is to, travel to Fort Collins with a bunch of 20-year-olds, I see it as like, in a perfect world, chapter 3 of my career would be piecing together some comedy, some producing, public speaking about the more serious subjects in more like serious settings. Commercials, those are hilarious to me. I have done some commercials and they're just so blatantly racist that you have to kind of laugh. Like, in no other field can you put a call out, be like, we need someone with medium skin tone.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, some of the places, I won't say who they are now, just in case they see this and they want to offer me something. But the types of things I'm being asked to audition for, submit for, like IT guy who's stylish but not too attractive. It's like great. Discount hotels. The friend of the white guy, and I'm like, look, it's show business. I get it.
Yeah.
What I love is that when they submit me for it, they're like, he can play anywhere from 30 to 39 years old. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm 45. And I get it. We don't age, but but one day we do. One day I will.
It's gonna be all different.
In the next 1 or 2 years, I'm probably gonna look 70. But for now, in a fictional land of commercials selling stuff, I can be as old as 39.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Although I did just get my first call to read for something for a dad, and I was like, oh, what's happened?
For a dad, like, and dad in what terms? Like daddy or?
Yeah, not this company. If you only knew.
Okay.
No, like a dad of a small Asian child.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, like a newborn. So they're saying, can you pass as like 34 years old, 33? And I was like, I'm gonna say yes.
Just say yes.
And this is my child, who I had biologically, obviously. And this is my wife.
Yes.
And we just can't keep our hands off each other.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, Jonah. Well, how can one stay up to date with you the best?
The website has all the stuff, because again, I'm Gen X and we still use landing pages and websites. So that's www.jonahnigh.com. I would say, actually, for material, TikTok.
TikTok? Okay.
That's where I've had the largest reach, which is hilarious to me, because again, I was not. You would think big Facebook or Instagram, but no, TikTok somehow. I think because stand up is a lot of one-liners and stuff like that. That makes the algorithm. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Then before we wrap up, are there any other upcoming projects, anything else you would like to mention or plug at this time?
Let's see. Upcoming. Oh yeah, I'm in the finals of the New York Queer Festival competition here in New York, so that'll be in a few weeks. This summer I'll be Greensboro, Boulder. Yeah, so those I think are the next biggest 3 projects. I would say though, opening for Natasha did remind me, is like, oh yeah, that's a job too, because you're kind of like a host. You get to get the crowd, and I like that energy. So the people I mentioned, like Ali Wong, Ronnie Chang, Hassan Minaj. Oh, this is funny. I was doing Gotham here once, and Chris Red from formerly in SNL and stuff. He was a drop-in, and they do that all the time, Gaffigan and whatever. So I went right before Chris Red and didn't know it because he just showed up. And then as I was leaving the stage, I hear someone go to me, "Yo, that shit was funny." I was like, "Thanks." And then he got on stage. I was like, "Oh my god!" And so I was like, "Can I use that as a pull quote for my website?" "Yo, that shit was funny." By Chris Red. I would open for him in a heartbeat. I'm not sure I'm the one. What other things am I working on? I think those are the next big ones. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic.